Now then, chaps and chapasses, so this is going to be the one on placing orders on the server. So there's a few things that I do in a certain order to make sure the orders are placed. Pardon the pun. So firstly, when you create an order on the server, it costs you towards your rate limit. So it's one thing to think about. I'll try and give you the things to think about, and towards the end as well, I'll put some demo code underneath a link to it, so you can go and have a shufty. So basically, with this server, when you're going to place an order, once all the signalling's done and what have you, and I've definitely got like an entry point, and I know what pair it is. What I do is I put a market, either market buy or market sell, depending on which way I'm going, order in. The reason why it's that and not a limit is simply because I just want it in there. I want it filled and ready to go, rather than having to wait around, because I've seen a few systems before that I've tried to use, third-party systems, which have tried to put like limit orders in 0.02% behind price or above price, just to make sure it gets filled. For the amount that it costs, I'm not really bothered. I'm not gonna fuss over charges for putting market orders on. So bang a market order in. Now I then save, so there's two ways of doing this. Then you want to know, I never put the stop order on at the same time. You can put multiple orders on, so you could put like the market order on and the stop order based off your entry price anyway. There's an issue with that though. And you could put a few into a batch and put a batch order on. But I don't create that many all at one point in time, and literally if I was to do 20, it might take 5 or 6 seconds to do them individually. But the batch orders come with a weight of 5 against your rate limits, whereas a single order comes at a rate of 1. So put that order in, it's a rate of 1. I then go, and I have two ways of doing this. I then need to know the average fill price of that order. 99.9% of the time the fill is within a second. I mean, they're not big positions anyway, so you're only talking like a couple of grand per position on each, so they get filled relatively quickly. So in that case, I would then, upon successful entry of the order, because if not, handle that as an exception. So try, if you're in Python, try except or try catch in other languages, and catch the exception and then report on it, because you want to know why that's failing. So let's say we have a successful one. I then query the order, because you get the order ID back from the exchange. I then query the order, find out what the average fill price is of that order, and then save it against the order that we've just done through the system. A couple of reasons for that. You need to know what it is, because there will be a little bit of difference, and I'm talking like it's a gnat's cock. That's how much it is. It's tiny, and you would fill. So I then fill the database in with the average fill price versus the entry price, and then I can report on what kind of differences between the two, just in case the system is laggy and maybe getting filled at prices that are way outside where I should be. So I then have an average fill price. I then use that as the gauge of where to put the stop. So hard stops 0.5% or 0.25% behind price. So I then start to use those stops. So I will figure that one out. I will then put another market stop on once that's gone through. So we put another order on for a market stop, and then that's it. So you've got a safe trade. If it doesn't go on, obviously I send myself an alert, because all of a sudden you've got a trade on that's got no protection behind it, and if it slides back, you're going to be screwed left, right and centre. So you need to know about that. So again, if that trade goes on, a try catch statement in there, and then handle your exception and find out why, so you can get on it, and you can manually put your stops in or something, try and figure out what's failing. There is, like I say, there is another way of getting, and there's a good reason why I don't do it that way, another way of getting the average fill price from the order, which is through the user WebSocket feed, so the user account data. Now, everything that changes on your account gets pushed down this WebSocket. I do have a connection to it, but I like to be defensive in my coding, and I like to make sure I try and code for every eventuality. And what happens if that WebSocket is down and that order goes on and that average fill price does not come down the WebSocket if anything goes wrong? Then in that case, no. That is a different component for me, and it has to be done within the order functions for it to work correctly. But yes, you will, if you are maintaining a WebSocket for a user data feed, you will find the order, once it's fulfilled, you'll find all those details through there, including the average fill price. And yes, I have that on constantly all the time, monitoring everything that's going on. Works as a secondary check. You can check what orders have been put on, what orders aren't been put on. And equally, if you're doing any manual stuff as well, what I like to do is, if I see something a bit funky, like one of the guys this morning and said, take a quick look at Kasama because they've got the parachain next week. So I've thought, yes, that looks good. It's trending in the right direction, and I caught it on the upswing. When I put that on manually, because the user data feed is constantly polling for new orders, it picks up on the order and then it will put it into the system in here. And it will automatically, because there isn't an order, because it doesn't know about it, because it's a fresh order, it will then put a stop loss in behind that order. So of course I have to be, when I put my trades on personally, I have to be careful that the trades are going to go okay. Otherwise, yeah, I'd get stopped out. So it's just a couple of things, and like I say, if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to manually trade and have it look after the trade afterwards, then that's one way of doing it, is using that user WebSocket account feed WebSocket, and then feeding it straight in, and then doing the trailing stop loss and all that kind of stuff. So, which is trailing stop loss engine is another beast altogether. But just to touch on that, because I do need to mention it, is again weights. So rate limits. When the system, so we've got an order in, we've got a stop in, but then when that order goes up, we have, like, the order is say the position reaches 1%, then it triggers a trailing stop on my system. What happens is it then monitors it. So I've got another module which is the, like I say, the trailing stop loss engine, which is all of the tickers that the system is dealing with, and then it monitors the ticker versus the entry price. So we get to 1%, and it then triggers itself to say we have a trailing stop loss active. When it first triggers, it will put, and in this order, it will put a stop loss 0.5% behind the price, because I'm trailing by 0.5%. You can trail for more, it really doesn't matter. Well, it does, it matters to whatever you're going to do, but so it puts in a stop market order 0.5% in behind. Then it takes the other stop market order out of the system. Otherwise, you just have shitloads of orders still on the system. Do it that way around, because if you were to take the stop market order off and then put the other one on, you've got to take into the possibility that if that goes off and then your system goes down, you have a network outage, you have any matter of things, the API is offline for a second. If that second stop loss goes in, you're back to square one with having an unprotected trade that could slide backwards. So always put your stops on first, and then tidy up all your shite in the background. To do the trailing stop, it is not a case of putting loads and loads of orders on as you go up. No. The exchange, obviously you have rate limits and you need to keep under those. So what I do personally is, we reach the 1%, we've got a 0.5% stop. As that goes up, for every percent it goes up, it puts a stop a 0.5% behind and removes this 0.5% stop, and it carries on going and going and going. Now, okay, yes, if we are at 1% and we have a stop at a half and we go up to 0.95%, we've still only got a stop at a half, but we're potentially going to lose near enough 1.5% if that slides back. In that case, yes, we have these hard stops, but the reason that they're there is for system failure. It's something to fall back on. That isn't the stop that I action. So what happens is when it gets to 0.9, if it does start to slide back and we get to 0.49, then in that case we would have hit the virtual stop that's been monitored. So if that's the case, then it would put a market sell order or buy, whichever side you're on, into the exchange, and it would check its fill price, and then it would remove the original stop, therefore making the entire position closed. Reduce only, of course. And yeah, that's basically how I handle the trades. If you're doing TPs rather than the entire trading off at once, then yeah, you want to be doing a whatever time you're going to reduce it down, but make sure your order is a reduce only order. Yeah, and that's it. Basically, it's not hard, but you do need to make sure you tick all the boxes along the way to make sure that your trade is safe constantly all the time. Just little nuances in there. So that's it. I'll put a link to the code underneath. The code that I've done is because someone asked me about it and I don't have anything that I could just put out there. So what I've done is I've taken the code that I've got and I've ripped all the stuff out and just put a couple of ordering functions in there. It calls out to the database and stuff, and you do need a JSON file with your keys in it to get it to work in the first place, and all the dependencies. But it's not as if I've written this for someone to use straight away. I've written that specifically just so people can see what I'm doing and handling my exceptions. So that's it. Have a great time, have a great weekend, and catch you on the flip side. Cheers!